El profesor John Mayer, conjuntamente con Peter Salovey, crearon, como todos sabéis, el concepto de inteligencia emocional. Vamos a recibirlo con un gran homenaje, un gran aplauso al padre de la inteligencia emocional.
Gracias. My talk today will examine the past, the present, and the future of emotional intelligence. In 1980, the late 1980s, when Dr. Salovey and I began work in this area, we realized, as did many people, that the traditional models of intelligence, verbal intelligence and perceptual organizational intelligence, were not enough to capture all of the human skills that people had. This idea surely was not unique to us. We needed an emotional intelligence, we thought perhaps. Now, why an emotional intelligence? Well, emotions are evolved as signals to relationships. If I am happy, that means I want to join with other people. So emotional intelligence involves thinking about these emotional signals. That was our original 1990 theory, and it's still our theory today. Emotional intelligence was originally measured in 1990. This is our first scale of emotional intelligence, and it's people see these colors and the designs, colors and designs, and also there were some faces, and we asked people how much happiness, how much sadness, how much anger is present in each of those emotional stimuli. And if people got the correct answers, they were evaluated as higher in emotional intelligence. In 1995, 5 years after our papers, Daniel Goleman wrote a lively book on emotional intelligence which covered our work, but it apparently dramatically broadened emotional intelligence definition to include persistence, character, optimism, trustworthiness, communication, team capabilities, and also added in some claims for the concept that we never had made. A number of other psychologists seem to read the Goleman book and think that that's what my colleagues and I had said. And so they created new models of emotional intelligence, a 1997 model that included assertiveness and optimism and self-actualization and self-regard, and another 2003 model that had assertiveness and lack of impulsivity. Other psychologists saw this occurring, and they were very dismayed. They said these models were preposterously all-encompassing, according to one very eminent management psychologist. And now let's come to the present. Well, first, let me give a quick summary of each article. I think that the European psychologist was the first of the three. It was developed from a 2006 conference lecture, and it concludes, and this is my summary, mind you. I was not an author. All approaches to emotional intelligence have their good sides and their bad sides. And if all these approaches are emotional intelligence, well, the area makes no sense. The American Psychologist article. Psychologists must choose. Either EI is that EI for emotional intelligence. Either EI is an eclectic group of traits, or it's a coherent ability. It can't be both. And there are many advantages to choosing the ability approach. Now, the third article, the annual review summary, is more interesting in certain respects because the annual review tries to be an impartial, high-quality, balanced review of a field. So in the European Psychologist, the authors say, we need to see a weeding out of those concepts that are not well supported by research. And in the American Psychologist, we recommend that groups of widely studied personality traits, including the need for achievement, happiness, and assertiveness, should be called what they are, personality traits, not emotional intelligence. From the European Psychologist, given the choice to assess intelligence with a question that is factually verifiable or a subjective rating, even the staunchest advocate of the latter approach is forced to concede that this is a no-brainer. So their group is saying, We have to go with ability tests, as I read it. Also, there is a growing body of evidence that self-report assessments have questionable discriminant validity. And from the annual review, which is that integrative article, measures of EI based on mixed model, broad definition, self-judgment approaches do not provide valid assessments in the area. And EI measures based on ability and integrative ability models exhibit test validity as a group. So the good news is that there are now a number of valid measures according to the annual review integrative chapter. There are a number of valid measures of emotional intelligence. And here are the conclusions. Higher emotional intelligence correlates with better social relations for children and adults. It correlates with other people's perceptions of a person. Other people perceive high EI individuals. They perceive them more positively than others. Higher emotional intelligence predicts better academic achievement, but not necessarily after you partial out other intelligences. Higher emotional intelligence predicts better social relations at work and during negotiations, and better family and intimate relations. And higher emotional intelligence over time leads to better overall psychological well-being. It means that there is this thing, emotional intelligence, and it really does have an impact. Issues of the future. My researcher advisor told me I must choose between models of emotional intelligence. Either I study the four-branch ability model or one of the broader models. I understand the scientific value of the ability models, but all those other concepts, such as assertiveness and optimism and competencies and skills and happiness and empathy, all of those are important to me as well. Remember, originally emotional intelligence started out to solve a problem. There were two widely used intelligences in the 20th century, as codified in the Wechsler intelligence scale. So to verbal intelligence and to perceptual organizational intelligence, to verbal and to perceptual was added emotional intelligence. But that's not enough. I guess I'm easily dissatisfied. So I think we need at least another intelligence here. We should also add in, shouldn't we, social intelligence? So we know how to relate to people and how to relate to groups and how groups interact. We surely need social intelligence today. We need some other things too. We need, for example, social expressive traits. The kind of people we are, whether we're talkative extroverts, or sociable extroverts, or friendly, agreeable people, or the reverse, we want to know that as well. When we start to get to this level of really wanting to look at a variety of different traits and characteristics, we're starting to talk about what's in that pink box on either slide there, which is personality. Now, in 1990, we couldn't talk about personality because personality was a greatly diminished field. But personality as a discipline has been growing over the last 20 years. Here's the problem with personality in say 2000. We've got these intelligences, and we've got social skills, and then we're going to put in emotions, and it gets confusing. It gets all mixed up and jumbled up. And personality can be, and in fact has been, defined, the definition I like, is the organization of the major psychological systems of the individual. That is how motives and emotions and thought and intelligence, including emotional intelligence, are organized together. Personality, as I define it, includes intelligences and socio-emotional traits and a whole bunch more, as I'll show you in a moment. There are contemporary models of personality that employ coherent views of the system, call personality traits and related qualities what they are, which is what the American Psychologist article calls for, and includes emotional intelligence. These models of personality are by Dan McAdams and Walter Mischel, and there are some others as well. The model I'm going to show you, which is depicted to the left, is from A Tale of Two Visions from another American psychologist article. We could use any model of personality, any of these models of personality, I think, to talk here today. But I think this one is particularly good, and I have a self-interest in it. It's a model from my own laboratory. A person needs mental energy. They need to develop their mental energy. Otherwise, you know, well, we just not have any energy and just stop here. And, you know. But fortunately, I have enough energy to continue with my talk today. And fortunately, many of you have enough energy to listen to me. I know some of you were up very late last night. So energy development, which involves principally motives and emotions that regulate those motives. Okay. The second part of the personality system, second area of the personality system, is knowledge guidance. We need to guide our energy, right? If I just was energy, well, that's just energy, right? I'm waiting for the translator to catch up. This is just energy, right? But we need knowledge to guide the energy, to direct us with some focus. And then we have to have skills, and we also have preferences for how to carry things out in the world. So action implementation is all about being able to carry out the actions properly in a social environment. And finally, we have executive management as an area. Personality must govern itself and exert self-management on the other areas. This model judges experienced psychologists can sort traits and parts of personality, taking 70 personality traits which are commonly discussed, including many of those in the area of emotional intelligence. Here are some examples of their placements. In energy development, things like happiness, sadness, need for achievement, need for power, and need for affiliation. Intelligences such as verbal, perceptual, and emotional. I'm starting at the bottom here. And then on top, competencies and expert knowledge in areas such as language and geometry and music. In action implementation, social skills such as tact and reciprocity and social self-monitoring, and preferred styles of engaging others like extroversion and secure attachment. Executive management or conscious management, which includes under self-awareness things like self-monitoring or being able to lower your psychological defenses or raising your awareness. And on the lower level, self-control, which includes some of the coping strategies, or, for example, some of the self-improvement strategies that Sonia Lubomirsky, yes, it's close, spoke about earlier today. These self-improvement strategies are part of this executive self-management area. These four areas also, we can use these four areas also to talk about educating character, and I'll just show you one suggestive result of one suggestive research project in which we asked experienced psychologists to classify various personality change techniques into these four areas. And they said behavioral modification, for example, affects emotions and motives. Teaching, just teaching generally affects knowledge. Teaching skills, for example, teaching emotional information can improve emotional functioning. Reframing situations can help people think better about the world that they're in. In executive management, mindfulness training affects self-control and self-awareness. Reducing people's defensiveness, ditto, increases openness, which actually helps the intellect. And teaching coping strategies, or I should have in relation to Sonia's talk, and actually also Kimberly's talk this morning, both professors spoke about really successful self-change strategies also belong in those areas. And then for action implementation, such things as helping people role play, teaching people, I don't know if you have this in Spain, do you have this thing in the United States we call I statements, teaching people to use I statements? Yes, some people have heard of this. Using I statements, teaching social competencies, teaching tact, and so forth. What does this mean going forward? We can have both a valid emotional intelligence and talk about what it means to be a whole, well-rounded person. We can call things by their right names and educate personality using good terminology, or character if you prefer, educate character or educate personality. This is a fully updated slide of the research pattern in emotional intelligence right now. The blue portions of the bar represent quality research in the area, and the red represents overall research. And I have no basis for discerning between the blue and the red. I just put that in to represent my own wishful thinking. I believe, but I do have a sense that quality research in emotional intelligence in blue is rising. But there is a drop-off in overall research under the name of emotional intelligence. And I think that probably will start to level off and perhaps continue its decline slightly. So what we're seeing in this area is an increase in quality, a decrease in number, which is probably, I'm hopeful is a good thing. My second forecast is that emotional intelligence will take its place among other intelligences. I think researchers will increasingly use models of personality to organize multiple variables, including emotional intelligence, traits related to emotional intelligence, such as happiness, sociability, empathy, and the like, competencies and the like. My fifth forecast, educators will increasingly train and recognizing that they are engaged in overall character development. They'll better label their variables as involving emotional intelligence on the one hand, or traits related to emotional intelligence on the other. I think it could lead to a much strengthened field, and it would direct a lot of positive energy around emotional intelligence today in a very promising direction. So that is my read of emotional intelligence, past, present, and future. Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Thanks.